Rev up your engines!
Juan Vasquez says, Scotty, I'm looking to buy a used car, but it's from a rental company, Hertz to be exactly. What do you think about that? Thanks. Okay, put on your thinking cap. I rent cars all the time. I travel all over the world checking out cars and making videos and stuff. So I rent a lot of cars. Well, when I rent a car, what do? I beat the heck out of it because it's a rental car, you know? Sometimes you hit curbs, all kinds of things can happen with a rental car. Do you really want to buy a car that a bunch of people like me drove all over the place? Not that smart of an idea. I really wouldn't want to buy one. And you don't get that great of a deal either because they just say, oh, it's a 2-year-old car, here's what it's worth. And when they sell them used, you can't say I'll pay you less. They'll say, no, this is the price that we get, take it or leave it. I personally would not buy one, especially when you consider how are they maintained. Generally, they're like pimply-faced teenage kids that might change the oil a little once in a while in the back room, but they really don't do that much to them. I'm not personally a fan, and I've had customers buy them, and some of them had okay luck, but some of them had really bad luck too. So, I'd pass on buying a rental car myself. Karishma 1997 says, Scotty, I'm thinking about buying a 2016 to 18 Ford Focus RX later as a weekend driver. They're well built and any problems to look for other than head gasket failures? Okay, those are pretty well built cars. Just realize, don't pay that much for it because they're not going to be making them anymore. So, when they stop making cars, the value goes down, unless they're collector's items, and those aren't by any stretch collector's items. You know, it's not like a Mercedes was going to be worth millions one day. They're never going to be collector's items. So if you can get one cheap enough, they ride nice, and you want a weekend car, they do ride quite well. That's when, you know, Ford took a lot of, when they owned part of Volvo, they took a lot of that technology from Volvo, so they ride really well. So, you know, there's nothing wrong with that. Just don't pay too much for it. Martin the Panda says, hey, Scotty, what do you think of Opel? You might know what I say about German cars, but Opel was the first car I owned as a kid. I paid $550, and I drove the heck out of that thing for 6 years, and I sold it for $500 when I was done. Opel's kind of like Ford Model T. They made some of the early cars in Germany. They make cars in Germany, V8, stuff that they never sold over here. I personally wouldn't buy one any day in the United States. It's very hard to get parts for them. Guys don't know how to work on them and stuff. But, you know, they got some interesting technology with them, and if you live in Europe or someplace, yeah, they sell a lot of them. There's a lot of parts available for them. And, of course, says, Scotty, in your professional opinion, should I put a 2.5-inch leveling kit on a Ford F-150 or should I keep it factory? I don't haul anything ever. Keep it factory. It was designed that way. A leveling kit, that's just for show. It's stupid on a truck. The truck's designed the way that it is. Leave it alone. Once you start messing with that suspension, it messes with the drivetrain. It messes with the handling. That truck, for what it is pretty well designed. And if you're not hauling a bunch of stuff around, leave it the way it is. It's going to run the best it possibly can, the way that it's set up. And you don't want to start messing with the geometric angles of the way the thing's designed. It would be kind of foolhardy to do something like that. Van McGee says, is a 1994 Chevy G20 van a good conversion van? Well, back in 94, Chevy was making better vehicles, yes. I'm not a fan of GM these days, but back then, those are decent vans. I got customers with them that, especially if they got the V8 350s in them, they could run a really long time. Now, they're gas hogs. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it, but they're well made, and they could last a long time. It's a 94. So what are we talking? 25-year-old vehicle. It's old. So you'd want it checked out before you bought it, or if you get it for practically nothing, fix it up and drive it around. I mean, they were much better made in those days than they are today. There's no arguing that. Kenneth Meyer says, Scotty, what's your take on the Nissan Versa Note? Well, it's interesting technology. There's no arguing that. I am not a fan of Nissan. And Nissan's been on the verge of bankruptcy for ages. Ford was going to buy them, but then when their stock went down ages ago, they gave up with the idea of buying Nissan. It doesn't hold up over time. They put some technology into them, yes. But their automatic transmissions, they've had problems with air conditioning systems, engines, blown head gasket. I am not a fan of any of their products. I personally would not buy any. Now, I've rented them to see how they drove when I go places, and they can be okay to drive around. I've driven Notes when I rented cars, and they were okay, but, you know, they're kind of clunky little cars. They don't ride all that well. I'm not a fan of.
So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.